Well, we welcome everybody. It's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Yep, one more time, new meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Commissioner and Chairman Conklin couldn't be here. He had to go to Boosters tonight, so I'll be chairing it tonight. I'm going to open it up for open forum. In addition to public comment on agenda items, the commission offers an open forum whereby citizens may comment on governance issues over which the city of Nacogdoches has domain. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, members of the commission shall not discuss, deliberate, or make any decisions on topics not posted on an agenda item. Speakers should address all remarks to the commission and limit your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, we're going to close that. We're going to go to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the commission and will be enacted by one motion. These items include final plats where staff has found compliance with all minimum subdivision regulations. All items approved by consent are approved with any and all staff recommendations. Since there will not be separate discussion of these items, citizens wishing to address the commission regarding one or more items on the consent agenda may address the commission at this time as well. If any commissioner desires to discuss an item on the consent agenda, it may be moved to the regular agenda for further consideration. All right. So 4A, we're going to approve the minutes. We're going to consider the approval of minutes from August 12th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So if you guys could take a look at it. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as printed.
I actually am sorry. I forgot that Commissioner Conklin had said something along the lines of a change in the minutes for the last bit of it said Chairman Conklin moved to make the recommendation to the City Council to approve the SUP with conditions presented. Commissioner Fu seconded the motion and was approved unanimously. He said it was 4-1. Do you recall that? At the end of the minutes. I don't believe that it was actually for,
I don't know who voted against it.
was it for the,
Which one was it?
for the sand gravel? It wasn't for that. I believe it's for the,
Because they both passed unanimously.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think it was for one.
It says Chairman Conklin moved to make the recommendation.
I
to the
know,
city
but he had
council
pointed to
approve.
this before he left.
I saw that.
Yeah,
saw
so
that.
I don't think that that's correct
No.
Where are we at?
at the end of the minutes.
So the first one or the second one?
I believe it was for the first one, but he pointed to the last one. Can we table this until next meeting to approve these minutes?
We can. I'm pretty sure we can, yeah.
Because I'd like for him to correct that
Okay.
and have him state specifically what he wanted to change on it, because he said it was 4-1.
Recording as well.
Yeah.
What's that?
We can check it with the recording as well.
Yeah, and I think there was a question on whether or not he had made the decision unanimously with us or if it was against, so, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to table this until next meeting so that we can get the minutes correct.
And I'll,
Okay, all those in favor?
Who made the motion?
Aye.
Okay, those opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, next, if I can get to it. We're gonna go to the regular agenda. City Council will receive staff recommendations and public input on the following items and may deliberate and take formal action on an item. Let's see. 5A. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on items removed from the consent agenda by the commission. Action. Have we done anything on that? No. All right, B. 5B, we're going to final plat. Consider approval of a final plat for RJ Bohack subdivision located at 1102 Logan Sport Street. This request has been submitted by owner Rudy Bohack.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, Juan Paulette, Interim City Planner. This subdivision is located at 1102 Logan Sport Street, just south of Pecan Park. This lot is currently developed with a single-family home. The purpose of this subdivision is to create 3 lots. The owner plans to construct 2 additional single-family residences of similar size on either side of the existing home. The property is zoned R2 single-family and is surrounded by a mix of zoning districts, which include R1, R2 single-family, R3 two-family, and R4 multifamily. The proposed subdivision plat with the 3, this is the proposed subdivision plat with 3 equally divided lots. On July 18th, the Zoning Board of Adjustment approved a variance to the minimum lot depth requirements in the R2 zoning district from 100 feet to 88 feet. The property was originally created by Meets and Bounds prior to the adoption of the current subdivision ordinance. Section 90-122M of the subdivision ordinance delegates the approval of minor plats to the city planner and city engineer. Minor plats are 4 lots or fewer which front existing street and do not require creation of any new street or extension of municipal facilities. It also states the city planner or engineer, for any reason, may elect to present the plat to the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval. In this case, this plat is considered a minor plat and should be approved by staff so long as it meets all the requirements. However, with the issues this plat has received, staff felt that we needed to bring this to the commission for review. The proposed subdivision meets all of the city's subdivision regulations with the exception of the side lots not being perpendicular to the street. Section 90-217B states all side lot lines are either perpendicular or radial to the street frontage unless otherwise noted. Staff believes this section is mainly meant for new, larger multi-lot subdivisions, not for existing infill lots created prior to the adoption of the subdivision ordinance. The unless otherwise noted in that section was added for flexibility in dealing with these pre-existing lots. In the future, minor infill lots with side lot lines not exactly perpendicular or radial to the street will have the comment on the plat like this one on the plat highlighted in yellow. Staff recommends approval for this plat. And just if you can't read what that note says, it says, this plat contains side lot lines that are not perpendicular to the street, which is being noted per section 90-217B of the subdivision ordinance. This configuration facilitates the intent of the subdivision chapter and all reasonable planning practices. And like I said, this concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions
Okay.
from the commission.
I have a question for you, Juan. And typically, you guys can sign off on these plats.
Correct.
They've been approved. And this is to make sure that we're all on the same page. Everybody is open about what's happened in terms of history, ordinances, following guidelines, restrictions, and ordinances, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Will you just give us a little bit of history on what happened here, just so everybody knows? Are you aware of what's happened? Okay, you are aware.
I think it's pretty public knowledge at this point.
I can give you a quick
Absolutely,
rundown
give
if
us a
you want.
rundown.
So, On August of 2020, this lot was rezoned from R2 to R4. There was a lot of discussion about that and protest, but it stood. RJ, or the owner, submitted a building permit for this plot, for this lot. He originally wanted to do, I think, 3 duplexes, and that was appealed by a couple of the local residents on that street. Then in April of 2024, the owner submitted a variance for the lot depth,
Okay.
and that variance was denied by ZBA. In May of 2024, the owner applied to rezone it back to R2 from R4, and that was approved.
Which we approved that? Yes.
And then in July of this year, the second variance, the lot depth variance, was approved by ZBA for this lot,
Okay.
which brings us to present time. We're just, at that time, like I said, technically we could have approved it, but we're just bringing it to
Yes,
the commission to.
absolutely. Thank you. For public awareness. Anybody have any questions, comments? Okay, anybody want to make a motion? Oh.
Can I ask Mr. Bohack, we have no control over the design of what you build there, obviously, but out of curiosity, I'd like to know what your plan is.
Yes, ma'am. RJ Bohack, 1102 Logansport.
Sounds like you know what you're doing here.
I've been here once for us. So at this point, yes, ma'am, my intention probably is to build something similar to the house that's there, something similar. Honestly,
Which means what, they'll have
this is a
siding?
small little single family home, yes, ma'am. Probably, I haven't really decided design-wise or anything, but something very similar to that. I would say just 3 that are very similar in aesthetically looking the same is my intention. I haven't laid it all out and done all that yet, but again, construction costs and interest rates are high now, so rentals aren't as great. But just honestly, just trying to do some housekeeping now, just for future, you know. So that's the intention, just to have something nice there, though. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is your, is the intention behind it to sell them or rent them out?
Probably to rent them, honestly. I subdivide it just to subdivide it, just to have it, just in case I ever do decide to sell one or whatever it is. So it's easier to sell 1 versus 3. So, but no intention really to sell it. That's, like I said from the very get-go, it's kind of my intention. This is one of my, you know, kind of retirement plans. You know, to have these. These are always, I know these will always do well. You know, as far as rentals, it's good location. And so just having something that's nice and aesthetic to the neighborhood for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, RJ.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank y'all.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve his
And I will
request.
second it.
Final
Final
plat,
plat?
there you go.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion carries. Will be signed off. Congratulations, RJ. Been a long time coming. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 5C. It's another final plat consideration. Consider approval of an amendment to Lot 4A of the OTR Place, Lot 4A replat located on the northeast corner of Powers and North Sanders Street. This request has been submitted by owner Joseph Irie Montes of Jim RB LLC.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Juan Paulette, Interim City Planner. This property is located on the northwest corner of Power Street and Old Tyler Road. The property is mostly wooded with the exception of several single-family homes along North Sanders and Powers. The subdivision is mainly zoned R4 multifamily with the exception of a small section on the northeast corner, zoned I2 heavy industrial. The surrounding area is mostly zoned R4 multifamily with heavy industrial across from Old Tyler Road and single-family zoning to the north and south of the property. So this subdivision has had 2 replats since it's originally been platted back in 2021. The original subdivision, which is what you see here, is the OTR Place subdivision and was originally approved by the P&Z Commission in September of 2021 with waivers to block length along Old Tyler Road, North Sanders, and Power Street. The original configuration included 5 lots and is approximately 38 acres. Lot 4 of the subdivision is a conservation and preservation lot. Changes in the permitted activities in the boundaries of this conservation lot may only be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. In December of 2021, the P&Z Commission approved a replat of the OTR Place subdivision to subdivide the Conservation and Preservation Lot 4 into 2 lots. This replat includes Lot 4A and B. Lot 4A is now approximately 28 and a half acres and remains a conservation and preservation lot. Lot 4B, outlined in green on this slide, is approximately 2 acres and is developed as a utility lines and transmission station with a 50-foot private utility easement that connects Lot 4B to Power Street for the purpose of connecting fiber optic cable to Power Street. In June of 2022, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the OTR Place Lot 4A replat to create 2 additional lots approximately 0.37 acres in size, outlined in green. The purpose of the 2 additional lots, 4C and 4D, was to provide 2 existing residents separate standalone lots. Lot 4A's conservation and preservation designation did not change. So the owner is requesting the removal of the conservation and preservation lot designation from Lot 4A to sell the property for future development. Any future development will comply with all the zoning subdivision regulations, and staff recommends approval of this request. This concludes staff's presentation, and this is what the plat would look like, basically with the removal of the conservation preservation lot designation.
Anybody have any questions for Juan?
I thought when we did this originally, it was because that land wasn't suitable to build on.
Yes, I remember that.
Am I not
was
remembering that correctly?
The main reason, one of the main reasons, but the owner agreed to it, and also I believe that he had planned to maybe deed it to the city to make a park, but that never came to fruition.
Mhm.
So now it's just sitting there, and he would like to sell it, and obviously with conservation and preservation designation on there is pretty much, no one's gonna really wanna buy a piece of property for just to look at it. So to make it more developable, he wants to remove that designation on there.
Is the topography suitable to build on?
It's pretty drastic in certain areas, but maybe the owner could maybe answer that question a little better since he's got more knowledge of development. I don't know if he.
We'll finish asking questions
Yeah,
first to Juan, and then we'll have Irie come up here. Mr. Montes will come up here after you. Anybody else has questions for Juan? Because I remember this as well. There was steep grades that we couldn't build on, and that's why we kept portions of it as the conservation area, and then utilized a small portion for the utilities to come through, which was big news back then because broadband was coming through. And I remember this distinctly. So do you guys have any questions? You look like you have questions.
No, I'm thinking of I was the assistant principal in that school, so I looked at that chunk of land quite a bit. And I'm kind of with you where I'm thinking, man, I get wanting to prep it to sell it, but if it's zoned R4, that full, was it 28 acres, I mean, how much of that is actually feasible for development would be my question.
Right. Any future development, whoever develops it will have to have a site plan with engineering approvals. If there's going to be roads in there, all that's going to be stamped and approved, and it'll have to come before planning and zoning to get approval. So any new roads or any development of a subdivision of whatnot that went in there would need city council approval.
Are there any pieces and parcels around there that have the conservation on it around, you know? It's just Mr. Montez's. Okay. Are there any protected species on it?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Road runners, anything like that? And Irene can answer all of this stuff for us.
Yeah.
He's pointing to himself. You are a protected species. All right, if there are no further questions for Juan, we can bring up Mr. Montez to answer any questions.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you, Juan. How are
Thanks
you?
for having me
Hello.
on it. As far as here
Oh.
to answer any questions you have.
You're gonna have to state your name and then your address.
Joseph Ari Montes, I live at 510 East Pillar
Okay, thank you.
Street here, historic downtown Nacogdoches.
Wonderful. All right, any questions for Mr. Montez?
So, Mr. Montez, in making this, removing that protection on it, is your immediate, are you gonna leave the land alone until it's sold, or are you planning on stripping it of everything and leaving a sand pit? What you wanna do with it?
As far as presently that property, I'm paying full tax on it. I went, whenever I got my tax notice, I went to them and I said, well, it's got this on there, and they said, it doesn't make any difference. How it got on there was the recommendation of a prior director of, I'm not quite sure, planning and zoning individual. I'd never heard of this before. I didn't know it existed, and it was a way to make give the city time to figure out if they wanted to. They had expressed interest of that lower part to tie it into that old mill park, and I said, "Sound like a good idea to me." And I said, "How easy to remove it?" And she proved that, because every time we did something, they made adjustments. Because yes, the terrain of it is challenging, but after 72 years of challenges on that kind of stuff, I know how to do it. I've proven it time and time again by, I don't know if you're familiar with my background.
I don't think everybody is.
Nobody is?
I don't think everybody is.
Okay. When I was 14, I worked on the steam towers, construction there. I can go on and on, list after building and working for, Kingham Construction on it. I've seen a lot of things. And didn't want to make, my father said, get your degree. And so I went and became a partner at a CPA firm called Laxton & Rhodey. And I was there for 25 years. And so at the age of 50, I retired. And I came to Nacogdoches to start and finish out Spring Creek subdivision. Try to get it in the city, annex it on it, but strip annexation, which I learned about, and I also learned about extended territorial jurisdiction on it, how that affects. But today, there's about $60 million of tax base out there that's not in the city tax rolls. Here, I bought this land patiently out of bankruptcy, because nobody knew what to do with it. I said, well, let's start with what's easy. And so I started putting lots around the perimeter, because that area up there needed some affordable housing. And so as I was coming along through there, and unfortunately I got ill on it, and still have the mind to do it, just don't have the body to do it. But the individual that I sold that 7 acres to, he's expressed interest in me making that terraced for he could, because R4 in that area is
Yep.
in need.
Yep. High
And
density.
just like the area in behind, it used to be, well, there's all those apartments and stuff that terrace in behind Guacamole's and that place. That's the same concept. as you start up here and it's in here, it's hard to get out. I get on paper though.
Hey, I got you. So, is it your intention if we remove this, you want to sell it to that individual to develop, or you want to develop it yourself?
No, I will not develop it.
Okay.
I've had to step back from that.
Gotcha.
But getting it to the stage that they can, which I've done with lots of lots. I get it to the stage where it's, and RJ understands it. It's not easy to subdivide, and I understand the job you have, and I appreciate it. And all I'm asking is the same consideration.
Thank you.
Those are all my questions. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any discussion on this?
I mean, I will say he brings up a very valid point that side of town does need affordable housing.
Yes.
That is a definite need.
With all the land work, dirt movement, what's going on with infrastructure and on that, not that we make those decisions at all, but I wish we had a topographical map to look at it again. Do we have anything on that?
We could probably pull it up on the GIS.
It's on? Oh, on the GIS, yeah. So the original intent, keeping it on, was to eventually just make it part of Mill Pond Park. I mean, donate it to the city. Not the whole track? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
It was,
Just a portion of it.
I would have come up here and addressed it on the front end, but Elena said that the best way to put it, it was easier to present, make it more understandable for everybody on it, and not have the issues about streets and stuff. Because until you have a design to put on it, be it, because R4 allows you to put multifamily. R3, R2, and R1. Gives you all those. And it's not gonna fit R1.
Right.
R2, R3, and R4, very doable. But I would see it as far as a duplex multifamily
Okay.
item. But there's gonna have to be some shifting and moving and pushing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Dirt's gonna have to go from here, there, off-site, whatever it's gonna be.
Sure.
I just want the ability to make that part of town, that area, useful. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
It'll make availability of homes.
So even with this platted with conservation, you've been paying full taxes on it, you said? Huh.
2,000 some odd dollars a year. Just that
Parcel.
part.
Yeah.
But I've also subdivided and constructed, I was in the process of finishing up a couple of homes.
Yeah.
Because of the accident I was involved in.
Right.
I sold those other two unfinished to Stephen Martin,
Right.
and he's picked up on that.
Okay.
Same thing in my other subdivision, Spring Creek. I had 40 lots,
Sure.
and I'm down to 7 that other builders have picked up on and
Okay.
carried it out, carrying the torch,
Thank you, Irie.
putting houses on the ground.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Montes. All right. We can all see this, right? General consensus says it's pretty steep.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. The question for us is that even if we remove this and replat it to not have it to go to R4, you know, is it a sound decision for planning and zoning for future use? Does it comply with the existing requirements around it? What is our future development plan? Staff recommends yes. We're looking at it from a perspective of, does this fit? So there's gonna be some really nice balconies if it, you know, some on platforms and stilts.
Can I speak again?
Absolutely.
Okay. Over on Tanglewood.
Yes, Tanglewood is a subdivision I think about, yes.
Okay.
But the-
I put Tanglewood in.
Okay,
Okay, Sam Wright came in behind me, and y'all approved the houses on stilts.
yeah, I remember.
I would not put houses on stilts. I wouldn't set somebody up for that kind of failure. I'll ask you to trust me to do what I've done. If you know my projects, you know what I'll do.
It's not you particularly, because this will be rezoned for future use. And so one of the things we have to consider is,
I will, what I will ask to be accomplished on the deal is getting it into a state that someone can easily put an R4 project on it. Instead of that project that's going over there on West Austin and Pearl, where they got retaining walls. Have you seen that? 15-foot, that's unrealistic. Yeah. That, I don't understand, because that wall's gonna fall over, because if you understand how dirt compaction goes in.
right,
It presses up against, and you see the footers they have got in there? It's just not gonna hold.
well, I was gonna ask you, Mr. Montez, what is the terrain here comprised, what's the dirt look like? It's a terroir on it, is it all sand?
Oh, it's a variety. You've got, as far as, different, grades of sand. On it, you get down to, green rock.
Okay,
And when you hit the green rock, you've got, like this right here, solid.
okay,
It's all underneath Nacogdoches. If you go right over there where, we built the project with Kingham on the south side where Butcher Brothers is, look to the left, that's all green rock. And they took that, carved that out and used it to fill in the right-hand side where Brookshire Brothers and all that complex is.
yeah,
I've seen a lot in my day.
you have seen a lot, thank you. Anybody have questions? Because also, Mr. Vickers is here as the assistant city planner. I mean, city engineer, and can answer any questions about terrain, slopes, land. Does anybody have any questions for him?
Sure. I always have questions. Come on up, my man.
Go ahead.
Congratulations, you're the chosen one today.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming to our meeting.
You know, the fun part about being new is you can ask any question and everyone just chalks it up to inexperience.
Jason Vickery, Assistant City Engineer.
Pleasure to meet you.
You're welcome.
Walk me through the feasibility. What kind of workload are we looking at to truly develop that area with those kinds of lines? Because Mr. Montez, I appreciate your explanation. That helps. But just from your work with engineer, what does that look like?
Anything's possible.
Magic.
Well, I mean,
Lots of money?
yeah. If you set your mind to developing a piece of property, terrain can be it's always going to be a challenge. This one's going to be challenging, but there's nothing to be said that it can't be developed. They'll have to go through the proper submittals, just like any other project would. It'll be designed by professional engineer. We'll have site plans. We'll have drainage reports, and at the end of the day, if it can be done, it can be done. Across this country, we build things in mountains.
Yeah.
So just because it's got some challenges does not mean that it's not doable.
Cool. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other further discussion?
I'm going back to this line here in the presentation. The primary purpose of Lot 4 was to enable the property to remain in conservation use for wildlife habitat, agriculture, and/or erosion control. Is that
That was why we, yes.
no longer, this was 2021?
But I think if I remember correctly, Mr. Montez said it was a tax thing, right? He thought he was gonna get a tax break on it for.
No, it wasn't
No?
about a tax break. It was this,
The current planning and zoning person said that
the planner.
the planner, came up with the concept. I never heard it before. I've dealt with it with Army Corps, TCEQ, and wetlands and stuff like that. And but I'd never heard about this. And I said, that's just not going to fit. And she said, basically was, trust me on it, and it'll be removed whenever you need to, because we need to develop in that area. And so I went through the process of replatting two more times to allow on it, and I agree with your homecoming engineer.
I'm working here, yeah, I'm
He's city.
Okay.
Yeah, city employee.
On it, anything can be done, and it's not always about money.
That's good to know. It's a lot of work.
But that was not my intent.
Sure.
Was to keep it where it's not usable for humans. There's a deer, antelope play, that's in the city limits. And there's places better for them than that, so.
Thank you.
Juan, is this the only such property that has that designation?
To my knowledge.
Okay. So this is a unicorn of zoning.
And this was something basically that the previous city planner and
She had a lot
the
of
owner
interesting
agreed
ideas.
had agreed. It just,
This is an interesting one because I do understand Mr. Montez's issue. But when you put it in paper and you have people deciding on a decision based upon these things and you say, it is here to protect wildlife of different, what are those? Was it listed beforehand? Was it listed?
the species?
Yeah.
No.
That's interesting.
I think it was what did he say? Mr. Montez was the one.
Deer and the
protecting-
antelope play?
Yeah.
Oh, you're the
Yeah.
you're the protected one.
species, so.
And to your point, when it says that the for it to remain in conservation use for wildlife habitat, for agriculture, for erosion control, it what I think of whenever I read that is if we remove that and then there is damage to a wildlife habitat, that it is impacting, agriculture, the surrounding agriculture, or if there does become an erosion control problem, well, it said it on paper, why didn't we give that, further
Consideration and thought.
This originally was just an agreement between there was no actual data to back that this needed to be a conservation or preservation lot. This was just a verbal agreement that let's put this designation on it. There was no data backing it needing to be a conservation or preservation lot. And any future development is gonna have a professional engineer stamp off on erosion control and
Well,
whatnot.
but it's very interesting because you look at the topography around it, what's it gonna do to the surrounding areas? If you move that's a lot of dirt to move. And
Maybe you can.
I know. Always, okay, Mr. Montez, because you're a developer, you know this. Come talk about what would happen to the surrounding areas. Would water runoff go? We would put in those things, obviously, you need to.
You cannot disperse water onto your neighbor.
Right, that is correct.
On it, whenever I'm fixing to build another home, in town, you have to put up silt fencing. And there's a proper way to do that to keep the sand from it. And as far as Elena told me, it was the easiest and best way to do it.
So sorry.
Because it's gonna come off of it.
Yeah,
And I, as far as all the language on it that was discussed, that was never the plan. That was just a stamp to make it easier.
right. I understand that.
to get past that, whatever that next step was.
this property is not as it sits unless somebody knows how to do it.
Absolutely.
And it sat there for years and years and years, and nobody did anything. Now we've got Conterra on it
Mm-hmm.
that did, they wanted it to be able to tie in broadband,
Mhm.
but for businesses in town on that. And so if I had not acquired that property, broadband would have Conterra wouldn't have been able to do that. Those people that live up there right now wouldn't have been able to do that. The land that I created down below, I had to move a lot of dirt and trees and spend money in order to get where that lot, that 7 acres, is buildable.
Absolutely.
The rest of it, all you do is you come up there and you terrace it, just like you see all these, over here on University Drive, what's in behind all those businesses? There's a drive that goes up and sits on Green Rock.
Yeah.
There's apartments all over the place.
Yep.
You gotta have the vision. Please
You
let me
do.
do it.
And we, I would trust you, Mr. Montez. I don't know about the next person that may take it on.
But Green Rock, you know what Green Rock is?
Pretty sturdy stuff.
Harder than that podium, I think is what you said.
Well, you have to understand what that is. Some people call it well poop. It's been here but thing you don't want to do is to pour water on it, and it's a slip and slide too. But it's a foundation that's not going anywhere, and once you hit that, you'll wear out the teeth on anything. You've got to have something grinded off. Not like what was approved over there in West Austin and Pearl Street, because that is excuse me, I'm not gonna get into that, because that's, wouldn't do that to anybody.
Okay. Thank you. Any more
Thank you again.
discussion? Matt, you were about to say something.
Oh, no, I just said thank you again. I guess I wanted to make sure that I qualified my questions by saying, these are all questions of due diligence to make sure that if there was a reason for these designations to be here prior to 2021, why weren't they? You know what I mean? That's more of a rhetorical question. So I feel like asking those, and if there's no data that supports this, then I feel like that has exhausted that topic. So thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the final plat.
Okay. Did anybody second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. All right. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for answering all of our questions, Mr.
And for
Montez.
going back and forth.
Yeah, and talking about the history, about how this actually got here. All right. We're going to the next one. Moving on to consent agenda 5D, consider rescheduling the regular November 11th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This was for the combined meeting, correct, with City Council?
No,
No, this
it's
is
our
for
meeting.
just the regular.
Oh, regular meeting, okay. Why are we going to,
Because it's Veterans Day.
oh, it's Veterans Day. Yes, absolutely. I forgot that this was actually one thing that we were discussing. Okay. What did we decide on in terms of dates that are available? What would you guys like to have, the 18th?
I'm in favor of the 8th.
That would be just fine for me.
Doesn't matter to me at all. Whatever works for you guys works for me.
Okay, I think November 18th will work. Let me make sure. Amy, we're good on that? Okay. Should we be taking a vote on this? Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to say that
I
November?
make a motion that we reschedule the regular meeting for November to November 18th from November 11th.
All right. Anybody second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. Motion carries. Rescheduled to November 18th. Oops. All right. Moving on, we're going to go to number 6. Minor plats with staff approval. Plats approved since last meeting are as follows. McMillan Second Subdivision was recorded on August 29th, 2024, under document number 2024-5791 in the records of Nacogdoches County Clerk. All right. 7, consent agenda number 7, City Council decisions on planning and zoning cases on August 20th, 2024. City Council took the following action on the items listed below. 7A, approved 5-0. Request for approval of a specific use permit for stone, sand, gravel, and mineral extraction on Lot 17-5, City Block 95, generally located on the west side of Northwest Stallings Drive, approximately 350 feet north of the Northwest Stallings Drive and West Austin Street intersection. 7B, denied 3-2, supermajority required, request for approval of a zone change from B2, general business to B3, central business for Lot 13, City Block 3, located at 216 North Church Street. All right. Consent agenda 8, discussion and possible action on future agenda items. A planning and zoning member may inquire about a subject for which notice has not been given. A statement of specific factual information or the recitation of existing policy might be given. Any deliberation shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on an agenda for subsequent meeting. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add to the next meeting? Nothing? All right. Moving on. With that, we'll adjourn. Time is 5:46. Thank you.